Good morning and good evening. Before we begin the study circle, just taking a few moments, focus on our breath, following our breath all the way in, all the way out. Invoking divine's grace, presence, and blessings, so that these words that are forces in nature, they can become me. So as we know, we are doing a book study of a compilation by Dr. S Dalal called Looking from Within. And last week we had started this passage on the spiritual view of the ordinary life. So it's a passage from the Synthesis of Yoga, and it was an interesting read that Vasu had read for us. So we had just taken the first paragraph and we were supposed to go further in. So just for a recap, I think reading it fully would not again make sense. We did it last time, but maybe taking it up in smaller sizes would actually maybe be more helpful. So if anybody is willing, if they can just read some recap and a new thing, just the first passage till here. Would be great. Starting from a principle of dark.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
The spiritual view of the ordinary life, a principle of dark and dull inertia, is at its life's base. All are tied down by the body and its needs and desires through a trivial mind, petty desires and emotions. On insignificant repetition of small, worthless functions, needs, cares, occupations, pains, pleasures that lead to nothing beyond themselves and bear the stamp of an ignorance that knows not its own why and whither. This physical mind of inertia believes in no divinity other than its small earth gods. It aspires, perhaps, to a greater comfort, order, pleasure, but asks for no uplifting and no spiritual deliverance. At the center, we meet a stronger will of life with a greater gusto, but it is a blinded demon, a perverted spirit, and exults in the very elements that make of life a striving turmoil and an unhappy imbroglio. It is a soul of human or titanic desire clinging to the garish color, disordered poetry, violent tragedy, or stirring melodrama of the mixed flux of good and evil, joy and sorrow, light and darkness, heady rapture and bitter torture. It loves these
Yeah, so I
things.
think we should stop, है ना? थोड़ा सा ऐसा लग रहा है we can see what it's saying and then I request you to continue. Thank you. So we had taken up the first passage last time. It says, firstly, the topic is the spiritual view of the ordinary life. And here it says a principle of dark and dull inertia is at its base, it being life. All are tied down by the body and its needs and desires To a trivial mind, petty desires and emotions, an insignificant repetition of small, worthless functionings, needs, cares, occupations, pains, pleasures that lead to nothing beyond themselves and bear the stamp of an ignorance that knows not its own why and whither. Whither is where one is going. So this, I believe, we had taken up last time. Any reflections, comments, or questions on this one? So just as a recap, what it's saying here is we at in our roots, there's this darkness and inertia. If we study consciousness, if we read like books on how consciousness evolved, there's a beautiful quote even from Rumi, a small poem that first I was a mineral, then I became a plant, then I became an animal. First I was a stone, then I became a mineral. That whole evolution, and I had the grace of reading a book called God Speak. It was a very hard book on evolution of consciousness, different planes and everything. And it showed, how we were first, we are born as stones, and how slowly from stone one gets into, say, plants, and how there are so many stages in between. So today, even today, when I take up the body, the darkness, the inertia, the dullness of a stone, as well as other things and births that I have taken, other organisms, they live in me. Like I say, I carry my great grandfather's genes. They say that if there's a generation who has gone through a lot of trauma, say Holocaust and stuff, the trauma is in your genes. So, similar to that, here it's saying that this dullness, this darkness is in its base, in the life's base. All are tied down by the body and its needs. Right? मैं तो ये भी कर लेता, वो भी कर लेता, but how I'm this is my age, this is my issue, this is my limitation. And I find that very interesting that how, say, I've seen some things about, say, when people are in hypnosis, how they could just, lift, I don't know, maybe 500 times more than they could lift without it. It's like your mind stops it. I myself decide this is my limitation and this is where I stop. So tied down by the body and its needs and desires to a trivial mind. If my needs and desires were of a higher mind, that's a different thing. But what I'm desiring, what I'm needing, were trivial mind, petty desires and emotions. कि मेरा दिमाग है, मेरा desire है, अरे मेरे emotions हैं. तो उसमें ही we get so involved and so topsy-turvy, that it's funny actually. So, yeah, Jagan, did you want to say anything?
No, sorry, less lost in thoughts.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I was just lost in this.
Okay, okay. Sorry.
When you said in during hypnosis, I remembered something and then my mind wandered there.
Okay. An insignificant repetition of small, worthless functioning, needs, cares, occupations, pains, pleasures that lead to nothing beyond themselves and bear the stamp of an ignorance that knows not its own why and whither. ये चाहिए, ये चाहिए, ये चाहिए, ये चाहिए, ये यहाँ जाना है. क्यों जाना है इतना नहीं पता, but it's just about itself. It just But we don't know. There's no bigger picture. There's no bigger reason. There's nothing permanent that it's taking me towards. Everything that these small desires and my intelligence and my emotions that are taking me towards, it's very transitory. And I've seen so much of it go by. So I know it's a bit hard to hear this or read it, and there's so many sometimes thoughts and contradictory things can come that, oh, he's going to an extreme and itni bhi buri situation nahi hai. So we can choose to believe that, and yet it won't change the fact about what it is, but that's fine. Yeah. So I'll move forward. This is what we had done last time. So moving on, let's say he says this physical mind of inertia believes in no divinity other than its small earth god. It aspires perhaps to a greater comfort, order, pleasure, but asks for no uplifting and no spiritual deliverance. Because we are talking about inertia and matter, so hence the next thing that comes up is this physical mind of inertia believes in no divinity other than its small earth thought. And we had taken up this with even in heroic hearts where we were talking about, earth gods, small local gods, but here it's about the gods that are created on earth. It aspires perhaps to a great, like what does the physical mind want? Comfort, order, pleasure. That's it. Mostly comfort. मैं और comfortable हो जाऊं, मैं और comfortable हो जाऊं. But asks for no uplifting and no spiritual deliverance. उसके लिए वो criteria ही नहीं है. And अगर discomfort ना हो, so it would never ever go there even for uplifting or spiritual deliverance. At the center, we meet. So this ends here, right? So we talk about how dull it is because of the inertia. Then we come to the physical mind of inertia. And now we are moving to something else called will of life. So I hope we are following. In case anything, please unmute and so at the center, we meet a stronger will of life with a greater gusto. But it is a blinded demon, a perverted spirit, and exults in the very element that makes of life a striving turmoil and an unhappy imbroglio. Imbroglio, I think G is silent, yeah. So this physical mind ho gaya, and now will of life. So that was physical. Now this we are talking about vital. At the center, physical is very superficial, like we see it right away. When we go inside, who do we meet? A stronger will of life. The prana, the vital energy with a greater gusto. Gusto is more spirited, right? Energy. But this gusto is also blinded, it's like a blinded demon. We are talking about a vital, a perverted spirit, and exults in the very elements that make of life a striving turmoil and an unhappy imbroglio. तो कॉम्प्लिकेटेड कंफ्यूजन्स, ये चाहिए वो चाहिए, मुझे कैसे बोल दिया, उसको कैसे बोल दिया, इट्स लाइक usually there is this life force, but it's not acting towards the higher, it's not aspiring towards the higher. It usually is just busy in the everyday's guessing and comparing and wantings and desires. So the desired soul basically I think is being talked here, which appears to be very strong, and it makes us dance on its tunes. This morning only we covered, desires very beautifully in our inspirational live session. So it's a very good follow up to that. But because of this field of life, it's making my life into a turmoil, chaos, striving, unhappy, confusions, complications. Okay, moving on. It is a soul of human or titanic desire clinging to the garish color, disordered poetry, violent tragedy, or stirring melodrama of the mixed flux of good and evil, joy and sorrow, light and darkness, heady rapture and bitter torture. So, like I said, we must be talking about a desire soul, right? So here it says it is a soul of human or titanic desire. Titanic means big, really gigantic. So this desire clinging to the garish colors, like bright colors. You know how even a small child, when he's given something glittery, he wants to hang, just cling, grasp it. So clinging to the garish color, disordered poetry, violent tragedy, or stirring melodrama. When we go for movies, we usually don't go for very regular, simple things, right? We want, like, okay, violence and I don't know, so much like lust and I don't know, all the words, right? Like, because that attracts us, the technology, the modernization, the stunts. We were discussing in newspapers, why is that selling so much, the bad news? Because something in me feels attracted to that. I feel like if I look back into my life, when we look back in our lives, so much good has happened. And so much, some trauma has happened too. And the way my vital sticks to my trauma, it doesn't stick to my blessings, right? So that is also very reflective that how it clings to tragedy, melodrama, mixed flux of good and evil, joy and sorrow, dualities. It wants that इधर से उधर जा रहा है, उधर से इधर जा रहा है, rapture, tortures. Again, sounds very ironical and it's hard to admit. But he's not just talking about like, the 4 or 5 of us, he's talking about like humans on earth. I hope it's not, I mean, it's, I don't know, making some sense. And of course, I could be saying things wrong. So if you see something in a different light, kindly do share. So it loved these things and would have more and more of them, or even when it suffers and cries out against them, can accept or joy in nothing else. Again, hard to accept, right? That love these things that we're talking about, the good, evil, light, darkness, rapture, torture, melodrama. There's something in me that love these things and would want more and more of them, even when I suffer and cry out that, oh, why is it happening to me? Why is it happening to me? And yet there is some darkness in me. That's not my true soul, but there's a darkness in me that wants, that is attracted to it some way and can accept or joy in nothing else. It hates and revolts against higher things, and in its fury would trample, tear, or crucify any diviner power that has the presumption to offer to make life pure, luminous, and happy and snatch from its lips the fiery brew of that exciting mixture. When we hear people, I don't know, moving a bit more towards simpler life, spirituality, a lot of us are stopped, right? And even Deepa was sharing that in the morning. Balance rakho, right? Like don't go all the way, don't go crazy, maintain a balance. ये सब कुछ एक उसमें चलना चाहिए, राइट? एक टांग इधर होनी चाहिए, अगर उधर इंटरेस्ट है कर लो, बट दिस इज द मेन थिंग. That is also reflected that how even nobody wants to to also go towards simple. We accept that my life is not simple. I know I suffer, and yet when I see somebody else trying to step up and say find a way where the suffering maybe ends, or when we get that wisdom when suffering doesn't feel like suffering, we would want to stop them. It's really strange. So there is this revolt against higher things within me, it's saying, and this vital would trample, tear, or crucify any diviner power that has the presumption to offer to make life pure, luminous, and happy, and snatch from its lips the fiery brew of that exciting mixture that duality, you know, provides us. Even in Savitri, we were reading in Canto 2, the issue, Canto 1, the issue. There was this line, I don't remember the line, but it said that if things are going too okay, the mind doesn't want that. Like you don't want things, the happy go lucky, good things. It attracts, it goes towards the other side as well. It's very strange. If we look at ourselves, honestly, we see. Should we carry on? Is it, I don't know, all good?
Yeah, all good.
Oh, thanks. Would anybody like to read maybe a paragraph? Because I think I read a little bit extra till this vital nature, starting
Yes.
from another will.
Ma'am, what is that word? How is it pronounced? Ameliorating?
Yeah, ameliorating.
Your-
Yeah, ameliorate.
Another will in life there is that is ready to follow the the ameliorating ideal mind and is allured by its offer to extract some harmony, beauty, light, nobler order out of life. But this is a smaller part of the vital nature and can be easily overpowered by its more violent or darker, duller yoke comrades, nor does it readily lend itself to a call higher than that of the mind, unless that call defeats itself, as religion usually does, by lowering its demand to conditions more intelligible to our obscure vital nature. Can I please read this one more time? Another will in life there is that is ready to follow the ameliorating ideal mind and is allured by its offer to extract some harmony, beauty, light, nobler order out of life, but this is a smaller part of the vital nature and can be easily overpowered by its more violent or darker, duller yoke comrades. Nor does it readily lend itself to a call higher than that of the mind unless that call defeats itself, as religion usually does, by lowering its demand to conditions more intelligible to our obscure nature, vital nature.
Thank you. So another will in life. We spoke about physical mind, will of life, which where we spoke about the vital, the darkness, and then there's another will in life. One was the vital life, and this is another will. There is that is ready to follow. This is ameliorating is to make better, to go towards betterment. Ideal mind, right? The higher ideal mind and is allured, is attracted by its offer to extract. When I am promised, when I'm shown harmony, beauty, light, some order, I do. There's something in me that does get attracted to, yes, I want harmony, I want beauty. But this is a smaller part of the vital nature and can be easily overpowered by its more violent or darker, duller yoke comrades, like companions, company, like the people you are with, other members. So, although there is something in me which wants this, and yet who overpowers the more violent, darker, duller, the comrades, nor does it readily lend itself to a call higher than that of the mind. कि अगर सुनेगा भी तो माइंड की सुनेगा और माइंड भी अपने में लिमिटेड टूल है तो वो भी इट डजंट अलाउ अस टू गो दैट फार सो इट listens to something other than mind unless that call defeats itself. Like it listens to a call when it's which what I can understand it when that call is not really very high. रिलीजन की क्या कॉल होती है कि ये मत करो ये हो जाएगा ये कार्मिक साइकिल है पनिशिंग स्केयरिंग फियर बेस्ड so even though the mind might be saying कि नहीं करना है या करना है but if religion is saying how again I had must have shared it one of my favorite line in Savitri that tied by the sacred thread कि sacredness के नेम पे religion के नेम पे ड्यूटी के नेम पे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के नेम पे हमसे कुछ करा लो so that's but it doesn't have to be higher. I don't go towards that, but to this I go. Okay, yes, yes. So by lowering its demand to conditions more intelligible to our obscure vital nature. जैसे कहते हैं ना थोड़ी जड़ बुद्धि है कम चीजें दिखती हैं सिंपल वेरी क्लियरली नहीं दिखती हैं तो जो मोटा मोटा समझ आता है कि हाँ मतलब नारा लगाएंगे ये करेंगे फिर से भूमिस बना देंगे मंदिर बना देंगे वो दिखती है वो लगता है कि हाँ यही है यही है यही है भागो 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 तो बस जल्दी से कर लेते हैं उनकी गलती नहीं है मतलब हमको ही थोड़ा मोस्टली कम समझ आता है एंड दिस अट्रैक्ट्स एंड देन वी गेट अट्रैक्टेड टू दैट so just reading another will in life there is that is ready to follow the ameliorating ideal mind and is allured by its offer to extract some harmony. So that want is there in me, but this is a smaller part of the vital nature and it can be overpowered. And I do not readily lend myself to a higher call. होता भी है तो कनेक्शन टूटता रहता है अगेन लाइफ अट्रैक्ट क्या ठीक ही तो है अरे ठीक ही तो है अरे ठीक ही तो है इतना तो एडजस्ट कर ही लेंगे सब So I stop myself. I take another step, I pull myself back a little bit more. Unless that call defeats itself, जब वो call ज़्यादा काम की नहीं होती, वो मैं सुन लेता हूँ फिर भी, as religion usually does, by lowering its demands to conditions more intelligible to our obscure vital need. Now, pausing here for anything.
Now, in the end of those lines, it says,
Which one?
I'm just going through this.
Oh,
So here it's, it says that, um, but this is a smaller part of the vital nature and can be easily overpowered by its more violent or darker, duller yoke comrades, nor does it readily lend itself to a call higher than that of the mind, unless that call defeats itself, as religion usually does, by lowering its demand to conditions more intelligible to our obscure vital nature. I know you explained this just now, but can you give me some more information? I couldn't
the
understand.
last part, the whole thing, or which are you?
Why does it say, uh, unless that call defeats itself, as religion usually does, by lowering its demand to conditions more intelligible?
Yeah. So again, like I said, this is just my what I can understand from it. So, what is the difference between spirituality and religion, right? Spirituality is boundless. Religion is limiting, right? Spirituality says you are just everything. And religion says you are Hindu, you are a Muslim, this is your duty, this is your sin, these are your practices, right? So either I don't listen to anything, I just listen to my vital. But it's saying that at times I do listen to something such as religion, which tell me very strongly what I have to do. In the name of wanting to give me this harmony, beauty, lighter, nobler order, but it really never gives me that. Because that's not its purpose. उसका purpose है हमें check में रखना, है ना, एक discipline देना. And it's very helpful for some people. But again, like we, talk about that reason is the helper, reason is the bar. Ego is the helper, ego is the bar. So it has its purpose towards something. Okay, it can get discipline in our life. But if we think this will bring harmony, beauty, light, order in our life, it can't. Religion can't do that. It's too cutter in its ways, right? Too rigid. It has been too manipulated. There's not much purity left in it. So these are the calls we listen to, like the call of religion. Because religion looks very pious, right? ये मेरा धर्म है, ये मेरा, आई डोंट नो वट एवर वी कॉल इट, कि उससे हमारा एक बहुत पॉजिटिव एसोसिएशन हो जाता है, फॉल्स है वैसे ना. तो उसके लिए हम लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स आई कैन डू विच आई वुड नॉट इवन डू बिकॉज आई से कि वो मेरा मजहब ये कहता है. Because there its demands are lowered. Okay, do this, don't do this. So that is graspable to me. But when if somebody says, oh, I am everything and everything is me, that goes above my brain, right? कि कौन everything is me, right? बट वो बोलेगा कि रोज सुबह तुम्हें जाके शिवलिंग पे गंगा जल चढ़ाना है या जल चढ़ाना है, वो आई से हाँ इतना मैं कर सकती हूँ, राइट? ये हारमोनी दे देगा, ठीक है, आई विल डू इट. So because it's giving me things that I can easily see, more easily than those abstract things, जिसके लिए ज्यादा प्योरिटी चाहिए, मुझे लगता है अच्छा इतना तो कर ही सकता हूँ, यही कर लूँ. एंड व्हेन आई स्टार्ट डूइंग इट आई फील ओ मेरे जैसा कोई है, right? Like we have seen how in olden times, how corrupted the Brahmins had become, how they were manipulating and Then came, right, Tulsidas, who had translated all the ancient texts from Sanskrit to Hindi so that the Brahmins cannot make people who don't know Sanskrit fools. कि घर घर में उन्होंने रामायण पहुंचा दी जिससे people can have the direct connection. We know of this manipulation. Another very beautiful thing that I got reminded, at the name of religion, and I might have shared that before, so stop me. There was this beautiful conversation in which, somebody was sharing that how Gandhi ji, how he had worked for, the Harijans, the lower caste, for their right to enter temples. Like there was this huge paragraph. He did this, he did this, he did this, he did this. And obviously that was showing Gandhiji in very good light and really good. And this was being told to J. Krishnamurti, the philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti. And he just said one sentence and he said that, but God is not in temple. Like, but why did he do that? God is not in temples. Because उसमें ये सब कुछ था ना कि so that they can go and be with their gods. They have the right to be with their gods. And Gandhiji fought and he did this. And he just said one sentence, but God is not in temple. How things shift or change or how that was important too. And yet to stop there or to question that कि मैं इतना कुछ कर रहा हूँ, not saying it would not have held. And yet this was a wonderful thought कि हाँ इतना कुछ तो करा but yeah जहाँ connect करना था am I doing that?
This sentence by J. Krishnamurti, did he finish his sentence or this is the entire sentence?
Yeah, see ना इसमें क्या हुआ कि उन्होंने क्या बोला कि गांधी जी did so much to make sure that that class of people who were not allowed inside temples. He did so many protests and movements and actions so that they could be allowed inside temples so that they too can be with God, see
Yes.
God, meet God. And all he said, but why? God is not in temples.
And then did he say where God is? No,
God,
I'm only asking this out of curiosity. Why
या
I
नहीं वो
asked
तो
that.
अब ये हमारे ऊपर है ना, आप बताओ कहाँ है, आप
Yeah.
खत्म करो.
Before joining the study sessions, these sessions, um, I would go into this disturbed state of mind. Every week it would repeatedly happen. And I didn't know how to meditate, or I didn't know even after reading books, the effect wouldn't stay with me. Somehow, like I would chant the name, the effect would not stay. My mind used to wander. For me, there is this temple called Vithal Mandir. It's a temple where you'll see all Hindu gods, then you'll see Allah, you'll see Jesus photo and everything. I just sit there in that temple and I got my peace. So now God is in the temple or not, I don't know. But my mind is tricked into believing that if I go there, at least I'll find my peace there. And that's how by on every Sunday, I would go there, find my peace, and then I'm ready for the next week. And if I belong to a lower caste and my mind is not evolved enough that I can see God in everything or I can see God in myself, and I would really want to go to a temple. Then for a mind like mine, I would see Gandhiji and I would say thank you, Gandhiji, for you know opening doors for people like me.
Yeah, and that, yeah, thank you for sharing. So it did help, and yet from a person who has seen that that is just our conditioning, that one is me, like if there is peace there, and if I can connect to the peace at a specific location, I am connecting to that peace when I'm seeing those idols, that ambience, right? So the peace actually is in me. है ना, अगर मेरे में नहीं होती तो मुझे मिलती ही नहीं। तो slowly I stop depending on these beliefs, right, that are there, that are, again, those are supports, right, that are given to us. Because in the beginning I cannot just say, if somebody's okay, there's just something out there, that is taking care of us. It's very hard to believe. So that's why a picture is given, an idol is given, कि ये देखो, ये हैं, देखो कितने सुंदर हैं, है ना, so that the love can be generated. So I agree absolutely that what he did must have been very helpful, and
Like
yet
I really
to stop. Yeah,
I'm really not into Gandhiji. I'm just what I'm saying is this is a
yeah, yeah,
person that
yeah.
does it, and also one thing I I sort of never you know when I would visit uh, places where there were these 60, 70-year-old people, na, I would think that I could never connect with them. I could never relate with them. Even especially the old people. What I find is that consciousness, at least in my understanding, is consciousness has different levels from lower to there are different levels, and every individual is in his own level of consciousness. So if I were to take this example of Jiddu Krishnamurti ji, being in a higher consciousness, I find that it's very true what he said. Absolutely, there's nothing denying in it. But for a person like I, who is in a lower state of consciousness, I find it not much helpful, when he says something like that. Because I think कि ऐसे कैसे बोल दिया? Like, how did he say this? Because for me, that's the only way, at least for now, until I raise to the next level, until I raise my bar, my consciousness bar, and then I can connect with the God within me. Like, ma'am, just looking at myself right now, November 2021, I joined these sessions. I would go to temple, you know, absolutely without missing, and I would keep a count on if I'm going at least once in a week. This week miss ho gaya, अगली week दो बार जाऊंगा. Not because I didn't see God in anything else. I just found that peace. And joining these sessions, you wouldn't believe that I've gone to temple hardly 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months, and I'm still at peace. And I'm happy that my consciousness is raising. Is a step above where it used to be. But now, yeah, that's it. I'll not go any further. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not nitpicking, but I just wanted to know um, who's written this part about the religion and spirituality being different, and saying that spirituality is higher than religion.
What we are reading or what I said?
No, I mean, yeah, what we are reading. Whose
Yeah,
contribution?
it's from a very amazing book by Sri Aurobindo called Synthesis of Yoga.
Okay.
Of all the yogas that are there, this is
Okay.
the crux of that. And very interestingly, the transcript that I had sent to you was actually about the same topic, the difference between religion and
Yeah,
spirituality.
but I feel this talks more about the Abrahamic religions, because they have such a, like, Muslims, for example, have a list of five must do's, or six have, and or Jewish people have very stringent rules of do's and don'ts. In contrast, I feel like Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma, though I don't have a full grasp of it, from whatever I know, I feel we are more seekers. Like, it does not bar me from going to a church or walking into a dargah. Um, I have not known any particular rituals or routines that I have done as a child or as a teenager or even as a grown up in terms of following my Hindu religion, though claiming very honestly that it is my religion, it is my identity. And yet it has led me to higher ideals. So I felt it was a bit, for me, it seemed a little skewed because it kind of blanketed almost all religions into one bracket. I do still feel that yeah, spirituality is good, but I won't say that spirituality is higher than somebody who's following religion. It depends. It depends from person to person, because I think these manipulations that we are talking are man-made, about the Brahmins trying to get one up in through in due to the caste differentiation. It's a man-made manipulation. I do think that the ideals initially of Manusmriti or something would have been far more um, focused on organizing society rather than discrimination through caste. I think they were kind of super specializing in a way, each occupation. And when it runs through generations, then you get better and better. You're breathing that, through your infancy, through your adulthood. You're living in that atmosphere. Like, for example, uh, people who did traditional medicine, their children did the same and they became better than somebody who's not exposed to it through childhood. So I feel it's a bit unfair towards Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma.
Okay, thank you for sharing. You know what we call as, yeah, Jagan, sorry, kindly go ahead.
No, no, nothing important. You please go. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think what we have followed, in our growing up, like you were sharing, there's more freedom there, right? Like you said, you were free to go here and there, you could think, you could be. That is the spiritual aspect of religion. But religion in itself, the people who are religious, traditionally religious, even Hindus who are traditionally religious, there's a lot of do's and don'ts in that. Because, see, basically, you said it was there to give order, right? And for order, you need some rigidity. Like, I don't know if you have personally come in contact with any religious leaders. Like, say, I have personally met, not personally, but I have attended live sessions of, say, the Shankaracharyas. You know how Adi Shankaracharya, now they are four mutt and all. And in the last one that we had attended, Ritu was there too. All they were talking about was three of them were present, ki how the Muslims, the Muslims, what havoc they are creating, how they are taking the Hindus for a ride. And they were just calling upon more people. एंड द थिंग वाज कि हम मार देंगे, काट देंगे, किसी को नहीं छोड़ेंगे, हमारे भगवान पे किसी ने कैसे नाम उठा दिया, ऐसे करके दिखा देंगे कि हमने भी अपनी माँ का खून दूध पिया है, सॉरी नॉट खून पिया है. तो this is what it is right now. If I don't want to agree to that saying, but this is not Sanatan Dharma, I agree with you. But religion in itself is there, was created for an order to give society a structure. And an basic religion, even if it's Hinduism, it has a very tight structure. It has a little bit of that do and die thing there. And I don't even want to go where, I mean, to the other aspects, a very long decision what spirituality is. So, spirituality is for the soul. What religion could be is made to be for the body. So, as long as the body is there, maybe some religion practices is needed. But for the soul, I would not say anything. But I think again, we can take it up some other time. It's a very long discussion. Yeah. Yeah, Jagan, would you want to share what you were sharing now?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I get reminded of those warm stories again and again. When I listen to these conversations, that how in that whole story there is a point where it says there are certain worms who see that light and find themselves enlightened, and they start preaching. Or I'm just rephrasing it. I don't remember it like word to word. Then they start preaching, and when someone is preaching, especially like these babas and some of these you know there are some in anyway. So when I start following these babas, they'll add their own masala in it. I'll call it masala because it is masala. And then they'll say ki aise karo, aise karo. I remember in my father's hometown, one of his, like a bunch of his long distance relatives, they used to follow this couple who lived in Bangalore. And this is back in 2006, 7 ish. And they created an environment where their footprints are being bought for 2 lakh rupees. Their footprints, his and his wife's footprints. And to meet him and his wife, it's like 30,000 back in those days. And then one day they all went to that event, and there was this what do you call when all the crowds run away because of some electricity shortage and all, stampede. There was a stampede. They all got hurt. घर आ गए याद आ गया कि ये भगवान नहीं है. They took away all his pictures and then they went and started going to the temples. Anyway, the point is that uh, it's very easy. It's it it I always seek for tangible things. When I'm said कि ये भगवान है and he is intangible, I think okay भगवान है, intangible है, but if ये भगवान मुझे थोड़ा tangible लगते हैं, and then these people come in the picture, into the picture, and they say कि मैं भगवान हूँ, and they say हाँ आप भगवान हो, and then they add their own stuff into it, and then they divert my mind. So again, coming back to the warm story, uh, praying to keep an open mind, praying to see the light.
Yeah, I think it's just ineffective representation, right, from these spiritual gurus at times. Not all of them, I won't bracket everybody. But yeah, there are, but they don't represent wholly our religion or our teachings. And but if you see the Bhagavad Gita and everything, they constantly talk about Krishna as a consciousness. They do talk about the higher ideals, and yes, they talk about what we need to do on earth, but also about reaching the higher ideals. And I think when I read Sri Aurobindo's a book, inspired book that Taru had given, um, and when I see parts of Bhagavad Gita, though I've not read it fully, I feel there's so many similarities there where they talk about the divinity, divine, and reaching the higher ideals. That for me, it doesn't seem as separate. Um, because when you see the Gita, you feel like the Krishna they're referring to, you can either take it very physically and symbolically as a physical matter, but the more you read, you feel it's a concept. It's divinity they're referring to. They're talking about the universal one. So for me, somehow it seems as one thing. I think it's manipulated, yes, by earthly figures, by some of our gurus or Shankaracharyas. It's unfortunate what they, yeah, if they missed an opportunity of talking uh, about something more higher in value instead of our earthly tussles between religious factions. Yeah.
I hearing you speak, I am very certain that you're kind of yourself confusing religion and spirituality. A lot of things you are saying are spiritual, which you are quoting under religion. See what religion is defined. See, Wikipedia, the commonest source, right? What is religion? Religion is a range of socio-cultural systems, including behaviors and practices, morals, beliefs, worldviews, texts, places, prophecies, ethics, or organizations that generally relate humanity to the transcendental and spiritual elements. So, religion relates is there to relate humans with spirituality, for example. So it cannot be the same, right? You said, according to you, religion and spirituality should be the same. And here the definition, I didn't read it when I opened it. It is there to connect you to the higher, right? Spiritual, higher, more than the body. So it's all mostly religious is associated with practices, rituals, ceremonies, symbols, idols. It's limiting. See, here it says that अब जैसे अगर रिलीजन की भी बात करें कि हाउ मेनी टाइप ऑफ रिलीजन्स आर देयर, राइट? हिंदुइज्म, क्रिश्चियनिटी, बुद्धिज्म, सिखिज्म. So in its root only you see there is division, right? ये हिंदू रिलीजन है, ये मुस्लिम रिलीजन है, मेरा रिलीजन बेटर है, तुम्हारा रिलीजन ये है, मेरा वाला ओपन है, तुम्हारा क्लोज है. How can that be spiritual? How can that be equal to spiritual when spiritual is saying we share the same spirit, we are all one. कोविड में इंडिया में जब मास डेथ्स हो रही थी, all bodies were penned together and burned together. Nobody could say anything. कुछ नहीं पता था कि हिंदू राइट्स करनी है, मुस्लिम राइट्स करनी है. तब सब एक था. और जब हमारे पास प्रिविलेज होता है तब हम बहुत अलग अलग सेरेमनीज कर लेते हैं, बिकॉज भैया वो थोड़ा मिलेगा फिर हेवन या जो भी और होते हैं. तो रिलीजन और स्पिरिचुअलिटी को इक्वल किया ही नहीं जा सकता. एक लिमिटेशन है, एक बैसाखी है, और एक है पूरा ब्रह्मांड. तो गीता बेसिकली स्पिरिचुअल एस्पेक्ट में आती है, जो आप रिलीजन कह रहे हो. और रिलीजन इन कट्टरपंथियों में आता है, बट because your upbringing probably has been a bit more modern and a bit more open and free, you're mistaking it to be under religion. Religious practices are very do and don't even in Hinduism. Sanatan Dharma is spirituality. Hinduism is religion. So there's a huge difference. Lots and lots of amazing videos. I can share some with you if you're interested. Are there on what is Sanatan Dharma and how it is the base of all religions. It is the art of living. It's the art of humanity. It's a religion of humanity. It's not Hinduism at all. Yeah, I apologize. I didn't need to be so strong about it. Yeah.
I'd like to a very interesting discussion between religion and spirituality, and I think it's always a discussion. In my opinion, I would say that religion and spirituality, if there is a comparison, it's like comparing apples and oranges. Spirituality is a way of life. It is more innate. It's more soul connection. And so there's not really, like you'll see if it's spirituality, there's no idols or there's no kind of the set rules that it follows. And I think that then it crosses all barriers of socioeconomic status, religion, caste, what have you. Religion is like even Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma doesn't have just the religious component of it. What does it really mean to be a Hindu? It's also a way of living. There are those ideals. So it's not just, I think, bound by just idol worship, like Sanatan Dharma, like that, like you just mentioned, that it is spirituality. And, all these things, I think pretty much when I'm not saying that I'm a scholar, but the basic premise of all religion is the same, is that all human beings, the kind of ideals and the way of things that we need to follow to be better people, which transcends, like we talk God, that's in different names, different religion have different names. Some have idols, like I think in the Islam, there is not like an idol that they worship. So it's different. But I think a lot of these barriers and obstacles have been created by men. And I don't mean gender, like men, I mean human beings. We have created those barriers where we have maybe like, our God is supreme and your God is lesser, or it was, I don't think, ever meant to be that way. All religion really teaches a lot of love and respect for humanity. And then, like, Deepa and Jagan, all of you said that then there are certain, these spiritual leaders, so-called, and who just sort of, divide and rule. That's how I feel it. I think they're just so different. Religion and spirituality is very, very different. It's very difficult to compare them. Maybe spirituality might be, in terms of a way of living, might be a subsect of religion, in the sense that religion also teaches us how we should be living our life. So it could be a subset, whereas spirituality is just in itself very independent and very different. That's my way of looking at religion and spirituality. I don't know what it really means to be very religious. Does it mean that you should fast and you should follow certain very strict customs and then you're religious? You should be getting up at 5 in the morning, having a bath and doing mantras. And I don't know what does it mean to be more religious. It's just very personal. This is how I want to follow my religion, my Hinduism. I might not be going to the temple every day, but I don't want to grade how religious I am or I'm not. I'm religious. I mean, like, it's a very different way of interpreting. I don't even know who decides, who interprets what it is. And you might say you're very religious and you do yagnas and everything, and then you go and berate somebody, or you have got these caste, or stigmas in your head. So does that make you religious? Just going to the temple and making donations and, I don't know what defines religious. So yeah, that's how I'd like to interpret religion versus spirituality. I think they're just very different.
Ma'am, can I say something totally out of the context with permission?
Please head up.
From this discussion, I used to, I was a vegetarian for a very long time in my life. I only, before moving to Canada, I started eating, and then I got into it. I used to ask my mother that, why are Muslims so hated? Why? She said that, I don't know why they're hated, but one thing is that they eat cows and we worship cows. So that's why. And I said, what if they worship goats and we eat mutton? So isn't that wrong? What if Christians worship chicken and we eat chicken? Isn't that wrong? And she said that's a very fair point. And she said, yeah, that's right. And she's not into much into this. So she said, okay. And again, again going back, this concept was so confusing and so overwhelming for me, especially मतलब इतने सारे rituals, but again I would see myself being unstable. I would see myself, यार मतलब मंदिर एक बार एक हफ्ता कंटिन्यूअसली शिव जी के मंदिर गया था, शिव एंड विष्णु जी के मंदिर गया था, थिंकिंग कि मेरा यूनिट, मेरे हाफ ईयरली एग्जाम्स में अच्छे मार्क्स आएंगे। ये भी एक्सपेरिमेंट किया था मैंने, लेकिन उससे कुछ नहीं हुआ। हुआ हो तो कुछ, अगर मैं कुछ पढ़ाई कर रहा हूँ तो उससे हुआ। तो ये सारे जो मतलब जो बिलीव्स होते थे, दे डिडंट टेक मी एनीवेयर, दे जस्ट पुट मी इनटू दिस डिबेट्स and into this back and forth, and even some jhagda also as a kid. But yeah, that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Jagan. Yeah, a very interesting conversation. It's so good to see how we all, right, thought we are taking from where it's very expanding. I was just, for my own curiosity, just looked at this, the origin of the word, and it's from religare, which means to bind, obligation, bond, reverence. Very interesting how it's about defining. And spirituality, how they say it's about the spirit, right? So, yeah. But yeah, So let's see if we want to take more today or end here. I think it's a big paragraph. So we'll take up from all these courses, I think next time and finish it. So yeah, so if there's any last comments on what we had read, yeah, we can take that up and then we'll end here. Okay. So thank you for joining in and just taking the last few moments to just praying for more flexibility, fluidity, openness, and more grace, more peace in our lives. Wishing and praying and aspiring for more wisdom and expansion in our everyday life, both in and out, within and without. Thank you so much for joining me.